Hey guys, wanted to go ahead and do an overview of the Crinear Reference, and to go from there, I bought this with my own money. I did not get a free unit, and so I'm just going to kind of tell you my 2 cents and to go from there. Before I go on further, I'm going to go and put some notes on the screen. Please note that the notes is a little bit different from what's in the video, and it might be helpful. I'm going to make sure that I don't talk when the notes are up. That way, if you want to check out the notes, you can you can watch it without hearing my voice in the background. All right, so that being said, let's get right into it. So what I'm going to do is just talk about what I think this sounds like, and then we'll talk about my various thoughts about kind of like the bass, sub-bass, vocals, and things like that. Okay, so in terms of signature, I want to talk about objective and then subjective. So the objective, which is basically, if you look at the graphs, this is what it'll show you. This is basically daybreak, but less bass, and then identical mids. Okay, and then with the treble, it is just less peaky. So this is less peaky treble compared to the daybreak, less bass than the daybreak, freaking identical mids. They have identical, it doesn't matter whether you look at the 5128 graphs or the 711 graphs, basically that's what it is. So essentially this is a less bassy version of daybreak and less harsh, less peaky, okay? So now what I'll do is I'll talk about kind of, I'll go through different signatures on my end and then kind of tell you what I think, right? So, okay, so this is going to be really goofy. Just note, you may not agree with the boxes that I have here, but what I want to say is you'll at least see patterns and you'll be able to translate it to your own notion, right? So I have this box here, I call it bright. Basically what I think is, this is to me bright, right? So let's just pull up some things here. So this is the Crinear Divine. This is the SimGot EM6L. This is the Blessing 2. This is the Moondrop Blessing 3. This is the Tantrum Origin. These are bright-ish, right? So this IM is warmer than all of these. So it's warmer than these. Okay, now let's pull up V-shaped, right? Because, well, already we know this is not V-shaped, but I just want to show you really quick, right? So we'll pull some things out. So Hype 4, Mark 1, Swan NV, Camper Silver Flash, Defiant. So these are V-shaped. This is not V-shaped, so it doesn't belong here. Okay, so next let's go over, I would say, warm. Okay, so I put in here dusk. When I say dusk, I mean dusk DSP mode, but dusk actually has 2 modes. There's a 3.5 and a DSP mode. So this is actually a little bit warmer than 3.5 mode, but this is not as warm as dusk DSP. And then there's Explorer. Explorer seems warmer than this. There's Truthier Pure. Truthier Pure is warmer than that. Lush is warmer than that. This is RSV Mark 1 is warmer than that. T-Pros feels warmer than that. So this Duna Kima 2 is warmer than that. So it doesn't belong in this box, which is more warm. So then that brings us to, okay, so this other box. I don't have it in the bright box, but it's kind of like this weird category I made. I just called it stars. But you probably will know what this is, but I don't know what I just called it stars, okay? So this is the Performer 5+2. This is the Tops Pro. This is the Let Your Cadenza 4. This is the Misty Blue. And then this is the Kiwi Ear Astral. So this IM is warmer than all the IMs in this box. So now that brings us to the neutral box, or my notion of neutral. Now you'll have a different notion of neutral. This is my notion of neutral, right? So Orchestra Light to me sounds kind of neutral-ish, right? But this is this with more bass. So this has more bass than Orchestra Light. And then there's obviously the Software Studio 4. This has more bass than the Software Studio 4, but this has more just more of that something X factor. Like just this just sounds better, but I can't explain why. It just sounds so fucking good. You know what I mean? But there's that. Okay. Then there's another box I have here. And it's a coffee cup. As in, it's slightly warm, but it's not warm, but it's slightly warm. And the funny thing is, Daybreak belongs in here. And that's what I was saying earlier. It's kind of like Daybreak doesn't fit in that old, warmish, kind of soupy meta, like kind of IEMs, but it's not bright, like I would say, like Hexa and all those other IEMs. But it's not, this is like, it's kind of in its own little category. The Twister Wood Note. So when you look at the graphs, they actually graph kind of similar-ish, but this has higher peaks on the treble, but they actually are not too far off. And same with, I would say, Sivga Q, and then same with Fosse IM4. All three of these, they're very unique in that they're not warm, like what's in the warm box, but they're not bright, but they're not exactly neutral. They're kind of like slight drops of warmth in it. You know what I mean? It's the best way I can explain it. And that's actually where this belongs. But this is basically these, but this is less peaky, is kind of what I would say. Okay, that being said, now let's talk about, the sound. So, okay. So in terms of bass, I would actually rank this, and what I usually check for bass is basically, just throughout, but one of the songs I like checking out is Weekend by BB. There's first few seconds in there where it goes boom, 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 and I want to just see it, like how much impact did that bass have. And I would say the bass is pretty good on here. Like, it's funny because when I look at some of the reviews on the reference, they seem to have concerns about the bass. But to me, I thought it was pretty good. So to me, I would actually rank it about, it's like somewhere between a B and an A, right? It's like, I'm hesitant to rank it A because A means it's perfect. It's not perfect, but it's really, really well done. It's not the, it's got good quality, but not a lot of quantity. Nah. And the funny thing is, the bass here is actually, to my ears, is better than what's in the Divine. So this has better bass in Divine when I hear it. Okay, the sub bass. So when I say sub bass, basically, there's this song by Wolf Tila I always check out. Let the music play. And I was listening to the sub bass on that, and I try to figure out where is it. So to me, it sounds correct. Like, it doesn't sound below correct. Like, it doesn't sound polite, but also doesn't sound like brum, brum, brum. It's like it just sounds correct. Okay, next thing I want to talk about is female vocals. Love of mine, someday you will die. So here's where it gets really tricky. So when it comes to female vocals, I actually had a little bit of difficulty deciding whether I should put an A or an S on this. Female vocals are done really well here. It's very lush, it's full, it's perfect, it sounds great. And the whole time, these were my impressions. I kept saying this. That's really good. That's impressive. That's really well done. That's really, really good mids. These are really, really good mids. I kept saying that throughout. And then when I looked at my notes, I'm like, what is that? Is that S or is that A? And as I thought about it, that's an A. That's not S. Because an S is that, like, knock me out of my seat factor. Like this IEM right here, the YU9Q, this blew me away when I listened to this. The Studio 4, when I first listened to it, it like blew me away. This doesn't have that. This is just more like, that's good. That's impressive. That's very good. So to me, female vocals are an A here. Anything you ask me to. Alrighty, so for male vocals, I would actually rank this a grade of A. And it's actually really well done. So I've tested many IEMs, and I find that many IEMs have difficulty doing female and male vocals at the same time. As an example, many of the cheap IEMs, they can do female vocals well, but they will suck at the male vocals. Like the male vocals sound thin. Or they'll do male vocals good, but then the female vocals sound synthetic and sharp and not right. But this IEM does male vocals good too. And basically what I found was it actually makes male vocals sound a little bit warmer and fuller and a little bit deeper just by a smidge. But I gave it a rank of A. And the other thing I want to say too, now this is kind of like what I do, is I actually will wear the IEM and I will actually use a neutral microphone and I'll speak into the microphone to hear my own voice to see what it does to my voice. Because actually what it does to my voice is the same thing it does to male vocals too. In other words, if I use a an IEM and my voice sounds all thin, that's what it's going to do to guide vocals. Or if my voice sounds like deeper, that's what it does to guide vocals too. So in this IEM, it sounds slightly warmer, slightly deeper, and overall really sounds good on male vocals. So I gave this a rank of A. Okay, next thing I want to say is the Soundstage is to me was good, but it wasn't spectacular. It doesn't have like insane amount of Soundstage. It just sounded, to me, it just sounded pretty good, but not spectacular. Sibilance scores on here were excellent. All right, I'm going to do a really quick demonstration of what sibilance means. Just cutting off here. Sorry, guys, but I needed to explain it. Sibilance is a really harsh S track. Very sibilant, like just very harsh. Okay, so you'll hear it. 1, 2, 3. That should be unpleasant if you hear that.
I gotta go somewhere, so can we make this quick?
$100. The C214 is the best mic I've ever tested.
It's so basic. When we first start out music production.
Alrighty, so this is going to be the sibilance section, and I had to redo this because there was a new development, and I'll let you know what's going on and to go from there. But I'll at least go over what I initially was going to tell you, which is actually true, and then I have to tell you what I had to fix. So basically what I was going to say was this. So this IEM, when I went through and I tested it for sibilance, at regular volume, I pretty much got no sibilance. And then at high volume, I got like no sibilance. So I began to question, well, this isn't really good for critical editing. So basically think of this IEM as a neutral IEM that's enjoyable. So think of it as like kind of like it's supposed to be a neutral IEM that's enjoyable. But it's not an IEM that you would use for critical editing. And that's what I said. And then I was going to show you scores. And on the left, you could see, okay, it's basically low sibilance scores. And on the right, you see like, basically, this is awesome for enjoyability. You're never going to get sibilance on here. And that was what I was going to say. And what I was going to say instead was, one IEM you might want to consider, which probably will be good for critical editing, is the Crinear Daybreak. And you should just get this because this is actually good at critical editing too. And then what I was going to say was I was going to elaborate what critical editing means. What that means is, let's say I'm a YouTuber, right? You're hearing good or bad audio, I don't know. But, there's a lot of YouTubers out there, they have bad audio and they don't know they have bad audio. So if you pop these on and you sound bad, you can fix your bad audio. And you're like, dude, I need to get a different microphone. I need to change my mic technique. I need to change my sound treatment. I need to, not use a dumb little mic in a freaking bathroomy room. I need to get good audio. You know what I mean? But this IEM, when you wear it, you won't know because everything sounds good. And now I want to say I was wrong because what I realized was that is the case if you use the narrow bore ear tips. However, if you swap to wide bore ear tips, it becomes a critical tool. You can actually detect sibilance. And here are the new sibilance scores when I actually tested it for, sibilance. And the other thing too is I went back and I listened to Luna and I played that track again. Oh my God, it is harsh on here. It wasn't harsh before and now it is. So this can be used for critical editing. It can be used for mixing. So I stand corrected. Just make sure. Now, what I want to say is for like 95% of you, just stick with narrow bore because that's a fun time. Now, the only question I have, and I'm not to dig at this, but I want to be honest with you, because this is my 2 cents. This is expensive. This is $350. The problem with this IEM is that you're $50 away from the $400 IEMs. I could go buy YU9Q. I could buy Studio 4. I could buy Dusk. I could buy a lot of other $400 IEMs that are pretty damn good. But yeah, it's it's fair at $350, I think. But honestly, I feel like the fair price for this, if I had to be honest, is $280. Around the same price as a Kiwi Ear Astral, if I was being honest with you. But it does what it's advertised to do.